Okay? Can you talk, Bogdan?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Are we like hello everyone? We are online. I just finishing setting up the audio.
And I think it's working. So again, welcome to the Q&A session number 2. I'm together with Bogdan here, and we are ready to answer your questions. So if you want to ask any questions, go to ahaslides.com/Graz and we can help you out.
Yeah. Or you can put them in a Twitch chat because we also see those questions.
Yeah, so we see both of them, so don't worry about that. So until we're gonna get got some questions going on, maybe we should talk about our days. Bogdan, how was your day?
Good. Just regular day at home office. Did some good, nice, clean code. Well, now I'm refactoring some projects that I was working on to make them ready to production, let's say.
Yeah, I also had a very great day. Was very productive in my regard also. Um, yeah, overall it went good. There's some internet problems. Let's see if we can fix them. We're dropping frames. We're dropping.
And it's a good first. Tomorrow is a weekend. One extra day of weekends is always good.
Okay, 1 second. Okay, internet should be fine now. Okay, internet is fine again.
Do we have some question coming or there's
So okay, everything should be fine now. I think internet is fine. Okay, so now we've got everything technical issues as always. So yeah, if you have any questions about the data science, about your assignments, final project, or anything related to that, just put it down on ahaslides.com/grants. So we are ready to answer your questions and to get the thing started.
or if you need a life advice, we can also give it to you. I don't know if it will be valid, but we still can give it to you for free.
Everybody can give advice, right, Bogdan?
Yeah. Just don't take us accountable for what you do after hearing our advice.
Indeed.
So do you think like people are doing so well with a project that they don't need to don't ask questions, or just majority didn't start it yet because deadline is on in 2 weeks basically?
So some people already are already like we have already some submission for the final project. So I think some people are working, but I think also most people have the busy week. So I expect some more questions definitely next week. So actually we've got the first question. Let me switch it. So the first question we got is from Anonymous, and he asked, "Do you know maybe company in Graz that works in data science where we could start as intern or junior?"
Do you know?
I haven't checked. I mean, I knew some companies who were hiring like half a year ago, but I'm not aware currently with the current situation. But if there's any companies, we're gonna maybe link them in the newsletter if we find any job positions which could be interesting for our fellow data scientists.
So the last thing the last posting on LinkedIn I saw was from Wirecard. They were looking for people with both software skills and data science skills. So as I understood, it's more if you already have a software engineering skills and starting in data science, it can be a good start. But as I said, I just saw there's this position in my LinkedIn feed, so I didn't really read into it.
But thank you for asking this question, Anonymous. We will definitely check this out. We're gonna look around, so maybe we can find something and post them on the newsletter next time. So thank you for your question. Another question is from Masin. Hello guys, how are you doing? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. I have a question regarding dataset. I'm still looking for a dataset. On Kaggle, I find some licensed data files at copyright offers. That does it mean that I can't use it? Okay, so when you go to Kaggle, if you go on datasets, most of the datasets, if not all of them, have you can do like following. So if you look at your licenses, you should consider either open, Creative Commons, and GPL. Most if this within these three, it's fine. So let me go through the licensing a bit. So let's say this one here. This is a COVID-19 data set, and it's always written somewhere here about the license, and sometimes it's others. And if it's others, then it's specified in the description what's about. Those one can be tricky. Most of the time of those is that the license is just unknown, or there are multiple data sets from multiple companies, and therefore each single one has a different um, yeah a different license. So it's quite hard to determine that. That said, if you take anything which is like Creative Commons, then you should be generally fine, or GPL. So the difference with GPL and Creative Commons is that GPL cannot be used for commercial projects. In our case, you're doing a portfolio project, so it doesn't matter in that regard. I would check that out. So for example, here I put Creative Commons. There's like a data set of sentiment analysis, and here you can see this is Creative Commons, and basically what Creative Commons 4.0 means is that if you're gonna use the data set, you should mention the creator of the person. Ideally, you just copy the license for your project, since most likely uh, your portfolio would. I think you also agree with the license if you would do your portfolio. There's also CCO, so CC0, and those data sets are public domain. So CC0 are public domain data sets. I hope that answered your question, Masim.
Mhm. The other place where you can look for data sets are some websites where the countries publish statistics. But usually those data sets are very unclean, and there's so much of them that it's quite hard to find something interesting. But if you have time and you want to work with some governmental data, you can try. And I think most of the countries like have it. So Austria has it. Some other European countries definitely have it, so you can check it out. But as I said, it's quite hard to find something that can be immediately used.
There is data sets like the open data. Most open data sets in Graz are not so good in general. I would not recommend them for now. However, there is a group called Open Data Graz, and they're doing geospatial data analysis most of the time. So, for example, here is a old thing which they posted, which is how close are you from a kebab place, based on the kebab location. So depending where you sit, how close are you from a kebab place? So it's a very interesting histogram map in that regard. Um, but in general, you can even Austria has open data. The open data from Vienna is actually quite decent. So open data Vienna is good. So if you go to data.gov.austria, there are a lot of data sets which I found quite okay. But we actually checked actually when we were trying to build assignments or examples for the course. We actually checked this website, and in Graz we couldn't find anything which is like, I would say, worthy for um for this final project. That said, maybe you can find from other states like Vienna, if you really want to go that direction. Maybe Steiermark, but in Graz I didn't find anything which is so good. Okay.
Okay, back to questions.
So if you have any questions, go to ahaslides.com/Graz. Anything regarding the assignment, the final project. Maybe you have a question general about data science. A question about um, if you need a life advice from
We
Boga,
are
God
here
forbid.
for you.
Yeah, we could try to fix your marriages if you have, but we cannot promise of our success based on
Yeah, in meantime, maybe we can talk what tasks are like, perfect. What task can be solved with machine learning, and what tasks cannot be solved with machine learning. So we can give people overview on like what is feasible and what is not feasible when they are looking for data set.
Well, okay. Well, that's really good. The good starting point. Um, well, let's see. So let's focus more on the project regarding that. Not, or you're referring for the in general.
Both in terms of project and in general.
So, if you want to do classification and regression, if you want to classify something, you should have label data for that. So, if you want, let's say, um, to predict if I eat avocados or not, you need to have some data of people actually eating avocados. You need to have a column called "eat avocado eater" or not. And if you want to do such problems where you don't have data, then it's quite hard. For that, there are other methods called in the unsupervised learning way where you do clustering. But clustering is might be tricky. It might work or it might not work. And if that doesn't work, then you're kind of. I think it's not possible, Bogdan. What do we say?
Hmm. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. Also, like in more general questions that all there is, especially that people that are not familiar with machine learning or artificial intelligence overall, there's this misunderstanding that AI can adapt to any problem and any system, but it's not like that. You train a model for one specific task and it cannot go beyond it.
no, no. Extrapolation is actually as machine learning cannot extrapolate so much information. So definitely something you should be careful about.
And usually systems with like a lot of external input is very hard to model. So think about stock exchange. It's basically time series, but there's so many factors that can influence price of stocks that you cannot take all of them in consideration. For example, none of the models could predict coronavirus, and it became such a downfall on the market.
Yeah, it's um, lots of state of the art research in statistics actually focused on rare events, right? How do you model these very rare events? And even with the latest stuff we have, it's still like if you don't have data, you cannot do anything. Even or like for example, how you're going predicting like the next earthquake? Like when like tell me now when is gonna be the next earthquake? Is it in 2 days, in 1 week?
Mhm.
Those things are hard to predict. If even if you have data, if you have, let's say, you have all earthquakes in the past, let's say, what was the recent one? This one from Zagreb, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Like, let's say you would have all the earthquakes which ever happened in the world, and when they happened and where they happened, and you would have to predict the Zagreb one. I don't think you could do anything. You could there was because it's like they're rare events and they're not. It's tricky. Maybe you would have some other data like about the behavior, about the tectonic plates or something like this. Maybe you could like predict it, but that said, that data is quite useful, right? If you have data which could describe the phenomenon, then yes. But if not, then you cannot like predict for example, if I scratch my eyes, if I'm gonna eat avocados or not, right? It's
Yeah.
a bit random event.
Yeah, that's a danger of like, misunderstanding a phrase that you need data, because there is this temptation that you just collect all available data that you have, and you put all of them in a model, and the butterfly effect, when it's like, okay, when the butterflies fly in Africa, there is earthquake in Zagreb. Because if you take all events, there's of course be some correlation between events, but we already learned that correlation is not causation.
One thing also to mention about correlation is that actually a story I read several years ago. I think it was Airbnb, and the story goes the following: a software developer looked in the data and he built a model, and it was the best model which they ever had. So previously, I think I know exactly what they want to predict, but it was something like if the person is going to. Basically, when the person is searching on Airbnb, to predict what item he would purchase, so which of the apartments he would book, something like that. And their model had like I think like 80% accuracy or something like this. And then a new engineer, just software engineer, just built a model, and it had like 90 something 95% accuracy. And they almost put it into production. It was so close to putting production, but the data scientists actually stopped it last second. What was wrong with it? Well, first of all, they took very random features which are not correlated. So, for example, like different click events. Not all click events are related to that thing. Just because you like uh, read like, oh, what is my profile settings? Let me check my settings or whatever. Doesn't mean that you're gonna purchase. Um, booking, or maybe spinning your your cursor in a circle like an idiot. Maybe it's also not a good determinant correlation. Even maybe correlated doesn't mean it's the causation. So it's you have to even though there's the correlation, you have to be very careful if you're gonna put it in your model. Now, for our project, this is not such a big deal. Most of the things are quite obvious. Like, for example, using the ID is very bad. um in general, like the idea of like for example, if you have like maybe custom ID maybe could be useful, but it's like, okay, if it's like the Rechnungnummer, how do you say that in English?
Bill.
Bill, like the number of the bill, like that thing is unrelated if you want to predict, let's say, the purchase size. So it depends.
There is actually, regarding one of our data sets, there is one concern, and it's written in description of data set. So it's about banking and this conversions to customer. And there is a column which is amount of time recorded before the amount of times the bank teller talk to the person which led to conversion. And the problem with that, it's like it has very high correlation with the conversion or not. And it says in description of data sets that, like, for modeling you need to delete this column, because what happens that basically you predict past with future, because the time of recording is only available after the event happened. So you cannot have it when you try to predict something. So yeah, and yeah, it's set in description of data set. So who is working with that, please take it into consideration.
Okay, we're gonna stay around like maybe 7 minutes. If there's no more questions, 7 minutes, we're gonna stop for today. That said, even though you maybe have a question later, you can always put it on ahaslides.com/Graz, even though the stream is not live. So you don't need to worry about that. Just put your questions like anytime, like, oh, you're working a project, it's like Sunday evening, no problem. Just put it in ahaslides.com/Graz, and we'll deal with it next Tuesday.
Or send it to us to our mail.
Or our mail, yes, that's also fine. Okay, let's talk about one more topic until, if there's no question, we can talk about one more topic. So I was thinking about like what are the next steps you could do in your learning. So we did our course, you did maybe the final project. What would be the next thing you could develop? What would you say, Bogdan?
Yeah, well, for me, I would say that exercise a lot with Panda. So download data sets, try to do transformation of them, and every time try to do something more complex. Try come up with crazy ideas and just do those transformations, because the core part of the job is data transformation. And when you feel comfortable with that, your other stuff as machine learning will come faster, because you will have better understanding of data.
I would say the same thing. Is like I would do two things. So one, I would exactly do what Bogdan said. Like have like a, let's say you want to look your table, your data frame in a particular shape. Like just like imagine it how it should look like and make transformation happen. But the second thing I would say, really learning the theory of machine learning. What we did here is very like, okay, we dealt with data cleaning. Most the concepts are somewhat well understood, except especially with the assignments together. I think most of the common ideas are spoken. But machine learning, we really not even scratched the surface. We scratched the scratch of the surface. And there, I would say definitely there's more work you have to do if you want to be more proficient in machine learning. And for that, I mean, we put already some resources, I think, on the final project description, which you could look. But I would say, like, if you want to start like your journey, just open scikit-learn documentation, take a model, make it to do your practical experimentation, try to build the model, see what happens, but also look maybe on a YouTube video about this model. So nowadays, when I started out, there were not so many YouTube videos, and most of them, if there were, for me at least, they were not ideal. And back then, Andrew in NG, the professor from Stanford, his course Machine Learning in Coursera, I think that was an amazing introduction for me when it came to machine learning. But later on, now when I reflect back and look like there's so much content about most of the machine learning stuff that I would say it's like, if you just Google it or YouTube it, you will find like one video which explains you in 20 minutes exact, and you should not have a problem with it. Okay, so if you don't have any questions, um, I guess no more questions. There are two people on AHA slides. I think one of you maybe is you, Bogdan. So
No,
yeah,
I'm not actually in AHA slides. So
okay. So there are two people, and so okay. So I would say, okay, we stay 2 minutes and then we will leave.
yeah, if there's no more questions, yeah. But
We'll leave soon, I guess. So
mm-hmm.
so 2 minutes and that's it. Um, yeah, okay. In case no questions come, we can talk about the closing for today. Any like motivation to the students?
It's not get good, get good.
Get good. Practice, 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 practice.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like for me, as how I work, it's pandas. You do a lot of transformation because before you get to the level of predicting something, you need to transform data because the data sets that we showed, they were they were collected or they were built with idea of data science. But when you work with some analytical tools, with e-commerce, the stuff that you get there is not ready to be used immediately into models, and you have to figure out how to transform it in the way that can where you can do some data science. Yeah. Oh, just as we said that we will skedaddle in 2 minutes, more
Yeah.
people start joining.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll stay.
Okay,
We'll stay.
people who just joined, put your questions or we will turn off the stream.
Okay. Let me put the question. So Q2 asked, "Hi, we found a data set regarding two fires in Australia at Kegel. It's from two different satellites, and not much is done about by now regarding analysis and machine learning. We would like to add." Um. Okay. Let me try to Google it. Like try to find it maybe.
Yeah,
But
maybe can you put a link to dataset Q2?
okay, additional data to predict things like evacuation zones for animals in human cities. So, is it like images of satellites? If you just say if it's image of satellites or not, that's the main information we would like to hear.
Well, you know what you can do? You can get additional data. For example, from a statistical website of Australia, for example, the population in every region, and see how it correlates with the wildfire. That would be one of the ideas. So I think Australia has something like Australia Open Data.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Q2, please follow up on this so we can answer
Yes.
your question. So
Yeah. I'm already looking. So there is data.go Australia, and there is data sets, and there's like a lot of data sets, so you can probably find something there. So I will put it in the chat. Data.go.au
okay,
data sets.
perfect.
Uh,
I've not heard what Adrian said before. Thanks for the tip. So uh, I guess I think the only thing I said is it if it was a Kegel, can you share the link? That's the thing what I said. But yeah, if it answered your question, that's also fine. Oh, okay, he now put the link. The Fernbedienung puts the link.
mhm.
Okay, let's see how I can copy it. Ha 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 ha.
Can you put it in the chat, please, in Twitch?
Yeah, put please on the chat. Yeah, please put it
Just retype it.
in. Just retype it, please. Please retype it.
But that sounds interesting. Wildfire, but is it like pictures or is it like data set? Like tables and stuff.
Yeah, because if it's images, I'm quite worried about that. If it's images of satellites, that can be very hard since there are a lot of concepts which we haven't discussed, and I personally think you will have a very hard time with it.
Because I mean, when we talk images, you need to do like some convolutional neural network.
Okay, so Q2 said data set from the satellite, no images. Aha, okay. So I
Okay,
guess
I see. Oh, I see now. Well, there is a link. Oh, it's tables. So yeah, uh, that's possible. Yeah, that looks interesting. And yeah, if you can combine it with some data from, Australia, from the data.go, I think it's like that website have all the data from Australia. If you can combine it, it would be amazing.
I will give one tip because this one is very clean that I want to show something on Plotly. So you can actually visualize this data very nicely on Plotly. Like these are data points, right, about latitude and longitude on the GPS, right? And then you have like some
Mhm.
other values. These can be plotted amazingly on Plotly. Like let me just go quickly and find the let me just Plotly
Yeah,
map.
just don't take like average of longitude, maximum. It may make sense, but be careful with those values.
So one thing I could recommend is the plotting. Like if you want to plot, let's say a density map or something like this, it's like it's like very easy. It's still part of Plotly Express, and I would say it's amazing. You just pass longitude and maybe some value. Let's say maybe the brightness or whatever. And here I have great visualizations. I give you one tip so you don't waste your time because Matplotlib it's a sorry Plotly maps require in a they so there are multiple map providers. One of them is Mapbox and one is OpenStreetMaps. If you want to use Mapbox, you have to go in their website and get the key. So you have so that's tricky. But if you use the OpenStreetMaps, then you don't have to use any key. And I'm trying to search an example because it's not really clearly specified about that. Just so you save lots of headache. So because I had to experience that. uh, yeah. So you wait. So open street map. How it's called? Plotly. Yeah. So when you just Google, so this thing you write Mapbox style OpenStreetMaps if you don't want to bother getting a key for Mapbox. So Mapbox is free. You just like the AP, like if you for plotting it should be free, but you have to go to the website and register and blah blah blah. But if you just add this line of code in your plot, Mapbox style equals OpenStreetMaps, it saves you a lot of headache. So this is a pro tip from me. Okay. Oh shit! I didn't show the screen. Oh damn it! Oh my god! Oh my god! Okay, now I'm sharing it. Okay, so if you go on Plotly documentation on map and Mapbox, if you just Google OpenStreetMap Plotly, um, you normally need the token for accessing. It says here Mapbox access token. You have to register to the website. But if you just add this line of code, Mapbox style OpenStreetMaps, then it solves the issue. Okay. That was disappointing. That was a big oopsie, I would say, from my
you know,
side.
classical.
Yeah. Okay. 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 So we'll stay. Let's say 1 minute, and then we leave.
Yeah,
1 minute
give
timer
us
for question.
it's like give us questions.
Yeah, interesting, interesting. Like excited now about the final projects. Like very nice. Wildfires, fly fire. Sorry, that's a very interesting topic.
Yeah. So
Okay, I think that's good enough for
no
today.
more questions. Then yeah. Then we next week we see each other again.
Yeah. So as a reminder, if you have any questions later on during the day or maybe another day, you can just put your questions on ahaslides.com/grats, and you can put your questions ahead of time. Maybe you cannot come to next Q&A session. You put your questions and watch the YouTube video later. So I think that's it from our side. Um,
Mhm.
I'm so excited for the final projects. Great seeing you coming out to Q&A session, and we'll see you then next Tuesday. Goodbye.
Yeah. And have a nice weekend. See you next Tuesday.